Hey everyone, welcome back to the deep dive. We're always on the lookout for wisdom. And today, we're diving deep into some ancient Taoist texts on, well, meditation.
Yeah, meditation. And, we often hear about meditation in the context of like Buddhism or Hinduism, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Taoism has a rich tradition of its own, and it's all about, cultivating a healthy mind and body, finding that inner peace.
Absolutely. And we're not talking about like super complex philosophy here. This is about practical stuff that you, the listener, can actually use in your own life.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, we're going to be looking at excerpts from pasted text, translated by the amazing Thomas Cleary.
He's like the go-to guy for Taoist and Buddhist translations.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And what's cool about this particular collection is that it brings together 6 classic Taoist texts on meditation, all focused on like the inner work spanning like centuries, from the Tang Dynasty all the way to the Qing Dynasty.
So we're getting a really broad range of perspectives here.
Absolutely. And our mission really is to pull out the most practical, most intriguing nuggets from these ancient traditions.
And like translate them, for you, the listener.
Right.
We want to make this stuff accessible no matter what your background is.
Right. It's like a cheat sheet to understanding some core Taoist principles.
Okay, so where do we start?
Let's start with maybe one of the most straightforward but profound texts, right?
Okay.
Treatise on Sitting and Forgetting by Sima Chengzhen from the Tang Dynasty. Even the title, right?
Sitting and forgetting.
Yeah, it kind of gives you a sense of what it's about.
It does. It really does.
It's all about quieting the body and clearing the mind.
So you can reconnect with, like, the fundamental harmony of things. I think some people call it the Tao, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The text actually says, inwardly you do not notice your own body. Outwardly, you are not aware of the universe. As you mystically unite with the way, myriad cogitations all disappear.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's not about actively doing something to get to this state, but more like letting go of everything that's in the way.
Yeah, exactly. It's like hitting that mental reset button,
Yeah.
Forgetting all the distractions, and then boom, what's really important becomes clear.
So it's less is more
Yeah.
kind of thing. Like sometimes we achieve more by focusing on less within.
I like that. Less is more. And this forgetting, right? It's not just about random thoughts. It's about like dissolving that worldly defilement.
Worldly defilement. What's that?
It's like all the mental noise, the attachments, the things that cloud our minds. The text says, as we embrace simplicity, serenity, we naturally move away from all that superficial stuff and closer to the way.
Interesting. It's about spiritual growth through letting go, isn't it? I love that concept.
I know. And there's that classic saying in the text, too. Close your eyes, shut your doors, and you do not toil all your life.
It's not telling us to literally become hermits, right?
Right. It's about finding that inner stillness so our minds aren't always racing, like always being on.
Yeah, totally. Like, how can we be mentally at rest even when life is, well, life?
Good question. And Sima Chengzhen, he gives us 3 guidelines. Ready for this?
Hit me.
Simplify your involvements, don't crave anything, and quiet the mind.
Wow, those are like so relevant even today. Simplify, don't crave, quiet the mind. It's like a timeless recipe.
Yeah. And the promise is, if you practice these consistently, the way will kind of reveal itself naturally. You don't need to force it.
That's encouraging for sure.
Okay, now let's switch gears a bit, move on to another text. The sayings of the Taoist master Danyang from the Song Dynasty.
Okay.
Here he talks about this difference between limited techniques, like specific meditation postures or breathing exercises, and mindless non-contrivance.
Mindless non-contrivance. That sounds kind of contradictory, doesn't it?
I know, right? But Master Dan Yang, he explains that deliberate practices, they have their place, but the real magic is in cultivating this state of unlimited, clear emptiness.
So it's less about doing and more about being.
Exactly. Like, imagine trying to catch a butterfly, right? If you chase it like crazy, it'll just fly away. But if you're calm, still, it might just land on you. It's like that with the mind, less force, more allowing.
I can see that. So we're talking about letting go of the need to control our thoughts and emotions.
Exactly. The text says, non-contrivance means not musing or mulling. Though you may act in the midst of love, desire, anger, accumulation, gain, and loss, be always uncontrived. Even when involved in things, be always unconcerned.
Okay, so even when we're feeling those strong emotions, we should strive to not be ruled by them. How do we even do that?
Yeah, it's tough, right? The goal isn't to pretend we don't have feelings, but to not let them control us, cloud our judgment.
Got it.
Master Dan Yang says it leads to, like, clarifying the mind, purifying the will, nourishing energy, and making the spirit complete. And eventually you reach a state of freedom of nothing whatsoever.
Nothing whatsoever. That sounds a bit intense, like, do we cease to exist?
No, no, not at all. It's more like going beyond our usual ways of thinking, beyond the limits of our everyday mind.
I see, a state of pure potential, maybe.
Exactly. And just to be clear, the text also says mindlessness or no mind does not mean being mindless like cats or dogs or bugs.
So it's not about being a zombie.
Nope. It's about striving for this clear purity, avoiding a warped mind. And that takes, constant awareness.
Okay, so not switching off, but
Yeah.
shifting to a different kind of attention. A higher level, maybe?
Yeah, I like that. And it's about being mindful of our energy too, right? Not wasting it on pointless actions or anxieties. The text warns against that.
Right, being present and intentional.
Yes. Okay, ready for another text?
Let's do it.
Secret Records of Understanding the Way, Late Qing Dynasty. This one's really interesting.
The title itself is intriguing. Secret Records. Sounds mysterious.
Yeah, right. And it advises, strive to break through material form, empty your body and mind, and become lively and fluid.
Oh, I like that. Lively and fluid, it sounds like. Dynamic, adaptable.
Yeah, totally. It's about flexibility in our thinking, in how we interact with the world.
It definitely speaks to a way of being that isn't rigid, that can flow.
Right. And it stresses that we can be fully engaged in society, in the world, without getting caught up in materialism. Develop your character in relation to the outside world as much as you can, it says.
So we're not talking about becoming hermits, withdrawing from life.
Not at all. It's about living life, but with a calmer inner orientation.
Being in the world, but not of the world, as they say.
Exactly. And here's another cool thing it says. As long as one doesn't stop walking, one will eventually reach the peak.
Oh, I love that. It's about persistence, right? Consistent effort, not some overnight miracle.
Absolutely. It also says true practice is total sincerity.
Sincerity over strictness, huh? I like
Me
that.
too. It's about the intention behind our actions, our inner state, more than just the outward form.
Totally. Okay, let's move on. What's next?
All right, let's look at secret writings on the mechanisms of nature. This is actually a collection of wisdom from a bunch of Taoist masters, 163 sources to be exact.
Wow, 163. Okay, this must be packed with insights.
It is. And there's this one master, Master Shu Yang, he gives some really specific instructions for retreat, inner cultivation.
Retreat. Tell me more.
So he says, find a quiet room, sit up straight, and turn your awareness inward. Focus on the gateway of life. It's often seen as the lower abdomen, a key energy center.
Okay.
And the instruction is to be aware but not fixated, conscious of it at first, then afterward forgetting it.
There's that balance again, attention and letting go. It seems to be a recurring theme.
Yeah, definitely. You're not clinging, but you're also not spacing out. And the result of this practice is beautifully described. Empty the mind and solidify the spirit, not sticking to material form, yet not falling into empty oblivion. With open awareness undimmed, consciously nurture silent shining.
Wow, that's powerful.
Right. And Master Shu Yang adds, positive energy arises ecstatically and you are as if intoxicated.
Okay, that sounds pretty amazing. I'm sold.
Now, the next two texts, Zhang Sanfeng's Taiji Alchemy Secrets and the Anthology on the Cultivation of Realization, they take us in slightly different directions.
Different how?
Well, Zhang Sanfeng's Taiji Alchemy Secrets, it's all about metaphorical language, spiritual alchemy.
Alchemy, like turning lead into gold.
Exactly. It uses that imagery to represent inner transformation, the refining of our being. Talks about the interplay of spirit and energy.
So it's deep, symbolic stuff.
Oh, yeah. You get phrases like, when spirit enters energy, it forms an embryo. When energy cleaves to spirit, it crystallizes the alchemical pill. Lots to unpack there.
Sounds like a whole other deep dive in itself.
Definitely. But the core idea, beneath all the metaphors, is about transforming our base nature, the human stuff, into something purer, more enlightened.
And the Anthology on the Cultivation of Realization. What about that one?
That one's a bit more straightforward, It connects selflessness with clear perception and effective action in the world.
Okay, so less about internal alchemy and more about, how we act in the world.
Exactly. It says, superior people observe things in terms of principle, right or wrong, good or bad. They deal with them accordingly. This is called selflessness. Selflessness results in objectivity. Objectivity results in clarity. Clarity results in dealing with events accurately and comprehending the nature of things.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Well,
But basically, if we let go of our ego, our biases, we see things more clearly, right?
exactly. And then we can act with wisdom, not just react based on our own little dramas.
That makes a lot of sense. So looking at all these different texts, different approaches, what's the common thread for you?
I think it's all about taking responsibility for our minds, for our habits.
Like self-mastery.
Yeah, exactly. Whether we're talking sitting and forgetting, mindless non-contrivance, becoming lively and fluid, or emptying the mind, it's all about inner work.
And how that inner work then ripples out into our actions, our lives.
Absolutely.
So, for you, the listener, what are your takeaways from this deep dive into Taoist meditation? We talked about simplifying, practicing non-contrivance, finding stillness, becoming lively and fluid, emptying the mind, and that connection between selflessness and clarity. Lots to think about there.
Right. And as you go about your day, just think about how you might apply some of these principles, even in small ways. Like, how might that idea of non-mulling help you make better decisions? Or how might cultivating mindfulness without fixation change how you experience the present moment? What does emptying the mind actually mean for you in your life?
That's what we want you to ponder.
Because this deep dive, it's just the beginning, right? These texts are filled with wisdom, and we encourage you to explore them further.
Because cultivating a peaceful mind, it's a journey, and these ancient teachings, they offer some pretty incredible guideposts. Thanks for being here with us today.